Hi, Kathleen.
Hi, Maya. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am a little bit nervous,
Oh, that's
so you'll have
okay.
to bear with me. I'm very excited. I have to tell you that I loved Burn.
Oh,
It
I'm
was
so
awesome.
glad. I'm so
I
glad. I'm
really,
relieved.
and my husband's kind of tired of me talking about it. Um, so I just had a couple of questions for you today.
Sure.
I wanted to know, what was your inspiration behind writing the Breathless trilogy?
As I say, every time I'm asked that question, the, I took the Sweet series, which I loved writing, and my Harlequin Desires, which I adore writing, and I combined elements from both of those types of stories, and basically the Breathless trilogy is a longer, more detailed, more highly eroticized version of a Harlequin Desire. So it's like getting to write a Harlequin Desire with no restrictions and no constraints, and being able to really push the envelope. And so, I loved writing that trilogy because I got to marry elements from both, my Sweet series, which is very erotic, and the Harlequin Desires, which aren't as erotic. And I just had a blast, with it.
Well, we appreciate that. um, one of the things I was able to read them back to back to back. So I read all three books in 4 days because I waited until the third one was out, at
Oh,
least for me.
I know a lot
And
of people do
so,
that.
yeah, so I was able to kind of compare how the three were written together. Did you find it difficult to write the same type of story with the strong alpha male character from three different main characters?
No, because for me, my books are focused on the characters. No matter what else happens, no matter what kind of crazy plot elements I throw in there or what kind of drama and angst, because I love emotion, I love angst, I love over the top, the more over the top, the better. But in the end, it boils down to me, it's all about the characters. So you can write similar stories, but have them be completely different because the characters are not the same. And so I had a very firm grasp of each of the three male characters before I ever began the first book. I tell people all the time that I knew going in that Ash was going to be presented in the first two books as a more charming, kind of carefree, laid-back guy because readers are viewing him not from his perspective, but they're seeing him through the lens of other people. And so I knew all along that he was a much more intense character, even than Gabe and Jace, and that readers would discover that when they got to his story because then they would be inside his head instead of viewing him through the points of view of Gabe or Jace or Mia or Bethany. And so, I knew that, the entire time, the differences and the similarities between, the three men. But, I always knew that Ash was going to be the more intense, brooding character than even Gabe and Jace were.
And we could definitely see that. You could see how the build-up for him came. And personally, I think he's my favorite because he was kind of the lurk in the shadows. You didn't know it was coming. And then when you finally got his story, it was so much different than what I expected from him.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, he was my favorite. And so what I did was I gave some of my followers and readers a chance to ask some questions to you through me.
Okay.
And so one of my girls wanted to know if you had any inspiration behind the male characters. Is there somebody that you know that you wrote into those characters, or did you just fly off the cuff?
It's a little bit of both. I get asked a lot, like what Hollywood star do you base your heroes on?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't. I mean, the simple answer is I don't. I'm ignorant of pop culture. I don't watch television. It's rare that I watch a movie, so I'm not even in tune with what's going on in Hollywood. And those guys are usually too pretty and polished for me. I like a rough around the edges, alpha male. And so, I may take traits from a variety of different people, but in the end, my character is somebody I come up with myself. I picture them in my head. I form their characteristics, and once they become alive to me, they talk back to me. I learn about them as I'm writing. Even though I may know a lot about them, they still teach me things about them, or I discover things about them as I'm writing the story. So no, none of my characters are ever based absolutely on one person. in real life, it's usually, if I base them on anyone, it may be a character trait or quirk here, and something different from somebody else. But I try very hard to make my characters original, at least to me. You'll never find me saying, so-and-so Hollywood actor, that's my guy, that's Gabe, or that's Jace, or that Ash, or that's Ash, because when I read a book, I don't want an author to tell me that this person looks like a Hollywood star. I want to be able to create my own image of that character, and everybody has a different idea of what, makes a character work for them. So I think by allowing a reader to approach, a character and have them form their opinion, what he looks like, who he's like, I think that's a better experience for the reader, because I know that's what I enjoy doing as a reader myself.
And I am the same way. I spent hours looking for the perfect, for my reviews, a Gabe, a Jason, and an Ash, and I couldn't find anybody who fit in my head. So
yeah,
that's probably why. One of my readers wanted to know, if you had to choose between the three, Gabe, Jason, Ash, could you choose?
Oh, absolutely. I know a lot of authors, when they've asked when asked if they have a favorite book of theirs or a favorite character, most of them are horrified and will say, no, I love them all the same, I could never choose. Well, I absolutely have my favorites. I have favorite books that I've written. I love them all, or I wouldn't write them. But I do have favorites. And Ash was always my favorite, like from book one, because I knew what his story was going to be from the very beginning, and I was very excited to get to his book and to get, to write it. So, I would definitely say that, he's my favorite. I love the intense, really brooding, kind of hidden, I won't say darkness, because that sounds, wrong, but some of those rougher edges that maybe not everybody else sees.
Thank you. One last question for you.
Sure.
Are there any plans to see any more of the characters from the Restless trilogy in another book?
I do not have any immediate plans, no. I learned much earlier in my career never to say never, because I never intended to write another book after Coulter's Woman. I never intended that book to become a series. That was a one-time book, and a few years later I did end up going back and adding sequels to that. So I won't say never. I've been asked by a lot of readers if I would consider doing a novella for Kai and Brittany, who were secondary characters in Burn. And again, I won't say never, but I can say with 100%, assurity, not immediately, not now.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Oh, no problem. I was very glad to do it.